All right, so we're going to dive into a story that, honestly, it sounds like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood movie, but it's all true. It is a really twisted tale of greed, manipulation, and murder, where every solution just seems to create an even bigger problem. So, let's get right into it.
I mean, that one sentence pretty much sums up the insane, spiraling logic at the heart of this entire story. We're going back to 1988 in California, and we're talking about a woman whose greed set off a truly dark and devastating chain of events.
So it all starts with a plot born from a messy divorce. At the center of it all is Mary Ellen, a 39-year-old woman who, instead of just, signing the papers, decided on a solution that was as simple as it was absolutely terrifying: murder for profit.
Okay, to really get what's going on here, you gotta know who's who. First up, we have Mary Ellen. She is the mastermind. Her target? Her soon-to-be ex-husband, Bob, who is a successful Hollywood cameraman. Then she ropes in Jimmy, get this, her own teenage daughter's boyfriend, to be the first hired gun. And when he becomes a liability, well, she just turns to Paul Gall, an acquaintance, to clean up her mess.
So what was her motive? Well, it was crystal clear, and it wasn't some crime of passion or sudden rage. The problem, as she saw it, was the divorce. Her solution? Get rid of Bob, collect on his life insurance, and get full control of a Subway restaurant they owned together. This was purely about cold, hard cash. And this was the prize: $500,000. Now, to put that in perspective, back in 1988, that was a life-changing amount of money. We're talking over $1 million today. For Mary Ellen, it wasn't just a motive, it was a jackpot, and it was absolutely worth killing for.
Now, obviously, she couldn't do this alone. Her first attempt to hire a killer actually fizzled out. She went to a local drug dealer who was so shocked that her motive was just insurance fraud that he said no. So she pivoted to her teenage daughter's boyfriend, Jimmy. And this time, she used a much more personal and cruel weapon, a calculated lie, telling him that Bob had been inappropriate with her daughter. The lie worked exactly as planned. Jimmy was enraged and immediately agreed to kill him.
So she's got her hitman. The plan is a go. Bob's fate was pretty much sealed, and now Mary Ellen had to get ready for her next big performance, playing the part of the grieving widow.
And Jimmy, well, he did exactly what she asked. He broke into Bob's home while he was asleep, snuck into the bedroom, hit him with a blunt object to knock him out, and then shot him.
So get this. 2 days later, Mary Ellen decides it's time to discover the body, and she calls 911. But for the investigators, the scene just screamed foul play. I mean, it was staged to look like a robbery gone wrong, but nothing was taken, not even Bob's wallet, which was just sitting there in plain sight. They knew right away this was no random break-in. This was an assassination.
But you know what really raised red flags? It was Mary Ellen herself. During questioning, instead of acting like a distraught widow, she was just bizarre. Her strange, flirtatious behavior felt less like grief and more like some really misguided attempt to manipulate the officers.
Now, you'd think with all these suspicions, the police would have her, right? Nope, they just didn't have enough solid evidence to make an arrest. So Mary Ellen walked free. She collected that $500,000 payout and immediately started living the life she had killed for. And I mean, what a life it was. She went on an absolutely insane spending spree. A brand new Porsche, expensive jewelry, fur coats, limo rides to bars. There were trips to Vegas, male strippers, a huge birthday party, and, as was pretty common in the 80s, a whole lot of cocaine. But, underneath all that lavish spending and the constant partying, paranoia started to creep in. She had one major loose end. Jimmy was the only person alive who could directly connect her to Bob's murder. What if he talked? What if he let something slip to a friend?
And this is where she makes just a classic, fatal mistake, trying to cover up one crime with another, which only creates more witnesses and more evidence. She decided the only way to be truly safe was to eliminate the one loose end that could unravel everything. Jimmy had to die.
So what does she do? She runs the exact same playbook all over again. She finds another hitman, an acquaintance named Paul Gall, and feeds him a new lie, that Jimmy was now harassing and blackmailing her. Paul, who ironically actually knew Jimmy, agreed to the job. He lured Jimmy into a car with this fake story about robbing some drug dealers. Once he was inside, Paul and an accomplice strangled Jimmy and dumped his body in a desolate canyon.
Okay, so now her husband is dead, the hitman is dead. Mary Ellen must have felt completely invincible, right? She probably thought all her problems were solved. But she had overlooked one person from the very beginning, and he was about to bring her whole world crashing down.
All right, so let's walk through how this whole thing finally unraveled. The first domino fell about 5 months after Bob's murder. Remember that drug dealer she tried to hire first? He tipped off the police. He told them, hey, you should look into this guy Jimmy. For the investigators, this was a huge break. When they checked, they found out Jimmy had just vanished. The case went cold for a bit until a hiker stumbled upon his body. That discovery led to a search of Jimmy's apartment, and that's where they found it, a phone card showing calls to Mary Ellen on the exact night of Bob's murder. The pressure was on, and one of Mary Ellen's own friends finally broke, confessing the entire plot to the police.
And just like that, with a witness who flipped and that crucial physical evidence linking her to Jenny on the night of the murder, police finally had an airtight case. They had everything they needed to bring her down. But the final piece of evidence? Oh man, this just showed how unbelievably cold she really was. When police searched Mary Ellen's house, they found something that confirmed her motive beyond any doubt. A nude photograph of her, literally covered in the cash from Bob's life insurance policy.
In the end, both Mary Ellen and her second hitman, Paul Gall, were arrested. Mary Ellen was found guilty and sentenced to death, although that was later commuted to life without parole. And Paul Gall? He was sentenced to 15 years to life for his role in Jimmy's murder.
You know, the story of Mary Ellen is just this chilling reminder of how a simple desire for money can spiral into a web of lies, manipulation, and murder. It really leaves you wondering about the destructive power of greed and just how far someone is willing to go when they believe there's no limit at all.